Hey, welcome to another installment of Catching Up. I'm Sam.
I'm Chris.
I'm Jake.
This week, we have an interview with Sean Lewis and Caitlin Yarsky coming back on the show to talk about their Image Comics series, Coyotes. The second arc starts on August 15th with issue number 5 out in comic book stores everywhere in Comixology. You know, if you listen on, you can also find out that Jake has seen The Dark Tower while Chris has seen Castle Rock, and I saw a concert. But let's get to that interview. And coming back on the show, we have Sean Lewis and Caitlin Yarsky. Their Image Comics series, Coyotes, comes back for its second arc on Wednesday, August 15th in comic book shops everywhere on Comixology. You can get that first volume out in comic book stores everywhere now. Also, digitally if you're more digitally inclined. Guys, thanks for coming back on the show.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
So, with this arc, you really kind of change up the scenery. Was there always kind of, without going into the details necessarily why, but was that always kind of something that you had in the back of your pocket, like the first arc, we're going to kind of do the kind of border town Sicario kind of cartel violence, and then we're going to kind of change things up every, reinvent the wheel every so often?
So, yeah, this is always the hard thing with two people is who goes first.
Yeah.
I think really early on, Caitlin and I talked about what would keep us excited in the book. You kind of fantasize if you get a really long run in this world of 5 issues and then it's a brand new number one usually. Mm-hmm. And one thing that came up is Caitlin had asked me at one point how far do you think the story goes? And I think there was some concern about how long do we keep it. How interesting would it be even for her to do the art for a long period of time in one locale? And I said to her at that point, I was like, well, I've been really obsessed with the idea of women going disappearing in a lot of different places. My wife's Canadian, so the Trail of Tears up in Canada was something I was interested in Eastern Europe. And so we had talked about the idea of that there could be a lot of different visual locales that these stories could happen within. So I think as we came into the second arc, there was a lot of mythology that, in the 4-issue first arc, we didn't get as much of a chance to go into, that it was we can go deeper into mythology. And I know for myself, I was really interested in exploring forgiveness, and that kind of demanded that we were going to have to go to a different group of women than who we saw in the first 4 issues.
To kind of shift gears visually, you've kind of got in the first arc, again, the Sicario stuff, you've got a lot of Day of the Dead imagery. Caitlin had very kind of gorgeously kind of provided these almost Victorian sensibility to a lot of the, to the women that banded together under Abuela and everything. With this new setting and this new kind of direction, what can we expect in terms of influences?
I guess I'll jump in here. I guess we talked a bit about, Sean had mentioned, Vestal Virgins and everything, and that kind of was the jumping off point for this other tribe of women. And without going too far into detail, it was just fun to kind of take that as a jumping off point and kind of still retain a punk aesthetic for the next group that we meet, but have a different vibe than the Victorias. So it's different environment and different aesthetic, and also kind of reflecting different philosophy on their part. So
right,
pretty fun. Yeah.
With the Sean, I always remember you had kind of described this as a cross between Kill Bill, Sicario, at least the first arc, Kill Bill, Sicario, and I'm trying to remember what werewolf film specifically. Was it The Howling?
Yeah, it was probably The Howling. I like The Howling a lot.
Yeah. That was a Dante film?
Yeah.
With the second arc, are we going to kind of see, because a lot, even though you're working with a new cast, there are certainly some survivors that make it over. If you had to describe it in terms of cinema, where would you kind of look towards?
That's an interesting question. I think my focus on this round actually changed a lot. Early on, there was the whole idea of that mashup of cultures. I think, the world has also changed pretty dramatically from when me and Kate started the book. And some of the issues of the book are so definitively present, but also the way that people are treating each other is so constant that I think I've been thinking less about movies and more about personal experiences. like I spent a good amount of time doing some theater in Africa, and specifically in Rwanda. And there's tribunals that they did after the genocide in Rwanda that were forgiveness based. I think that started really just coming into my head a lot lately, just because I feel like we're turning into a country and a world that has like no patience or like motion at all for forgiveness. Like we just don't believe in it anymore. And that's really scary to me. So I think that started to come in and motivate the storytelling more than some of the filmic influences that I think influenced the first arc. It's definitely taking on a different shape because of that.
Right. There's almost like a monastic quality to this, at least the opening issue for this arc. There's like, to quote Latour, there's like some Jedi shit going on. You've got the, you've certainly got the badass women, but you've also got, there is this very kind of like, this new cast has a kind of Zen mentality about it all.
Yeah. Yeah. And I knew I wanted, I don't know why, like, you know, a lot of times an image pops in my head, and I had an image of Olive, who's like one of the leaders of the newest group before anything else, and me and Caitlin had talked about the whole idea of her. And a lot of times I just kind of base, you know, it's a lot of just jamming out ideas and figuring out like what excites both of us. Like I was getting really obsessed with this like forgiveness, restorative justice, and like this more Vancouver, like, you know, like Western Washington kind of locale, and I kind of threw that at Caitlin, and Caitlin got really excited, like in our conversation about it. And then I was like, oh, great. Okay, her excitement now has me excited. And then you kind of start rolling off of each other. And then, you know, it's really great. I mean, the collaboration that we've had has been so awesome in the sense that, like, then, you know, as Caitlin starts sending me pages or visual ideas, it starts to also inform story, where I start going like, oh, we should go even deeper into that, or we can do more with that now. But it definitely does have, I mean, I think monastic is true. Like there is a more, in some ways, you know, I guess you asked about film, like I'm sure what's sneaking in a little bit is I've always had a big obsession with Kurosawa as well. And there's definitely a bit of, I feel like there was definitely a little bit of samurai, you know, Seven Samurai going on in the first arc of Coyotes. And now it's, I think it's getting even more kind of into the Zen and later Kurosawa in terms of that kind of like meditative approach of the warrior. Right.
Kind of.
Sorry, you probably hear my son yelling in the background. He does not want to go to bed.
It's fine. He's a guest. He's a guest star now.
yeah. He just wants to sing his ABCs to you.
Cool. Does he enjoy Ran as well as Yojimbo and Throne of Blood as well?
Yeah, it's one of his favorite things to watch with me before bed.
I grew up on a lot of that. You know, I'm also like half Korean, so which I'm aware is not what Kurosawa is. He's Japanese, but like the sentiments there. But and
the meditative thing is cool because it's or not meditative, monastic thing is cool in the series Wizard of Earthsea. I don't know if you guys ever read that series, but it's like it's super informed things, and for me anyway, in this arc. Like I just think it's a really cool approach, that whole restorative justice. And I grew up Quaker too, which is like kind of I don't know, but I'm not really religious anymore. But I really love the pacifism and the idea of forgiveness, and it's not really something, like Sean was saying, it's not really something that's in our narrative right now, or very much at all. So
no, I think we're all kind of, it's a very like vindictive, without going too far down the rabbit hole, it's very kind of, there is a sense of vindictiveness and almost like there's like an accusatory thing. And I think like this period, and especially it's fueled by what we see online, is just kind of like, it's almost like it's Carol's looking glass. It's showing us our worst true selves in a way. And it's interesting that you kind of, with this arc, that you've kind of, because the survivors from the first arc, they've been doing this for years. There's always been a sense of revenge from ground one with Coyotes, right? Like all of these women have lost somebody or have lost parts of themselves to the titular lycanthropes. And so to find this new society that are just like, no, there's like, we don't necessarily do this lethally. You know, there's this weird piece about them, and it's like, oh, you know, it's a complete tonal shift without throwing out the bathwater, so to speak.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I would agree. I mean, I think one, it's also just like, what are the? I think I personally get really obsessed with like, what are the multiple complexities of the situation? You know, like for me when it started, it was full on revenge story, but then like, how long do you go down the rabbit hole of a revenge story before your hero is itself a villain? Mm-hmm. You know, like at what point is that satiated? I also come from theater, and revenge stories never end good from like classic theater.
Yeah. Like
they never do. Like the Greeks, like everything ends up really bad. Shakespeare, everyone dies. Like Hamlet does not succeed. You know, like, so I think that's just so ingrained in me that it is nice that it can open up possibilities to start going like, okay, if we've gone down the revenge, you know, path for the first arc, and in a lot of ways those things are accomplished and like some major villains are taken care of, where are the heroes at that point? Like what do you do? Is revenge kind of something that can actually be satiated, or do you have to find a goal that you can actually achieve? Do you know what I mean? Like, mm-hmm. The big thing I think about, like in theater, we talk about a lot of like, what's the achievable goal of a character? Like, when you watch Lord of the Rings, like, you know that the ring is what they all want because it's a physical thing. Like, you can understand when it's captured, and then you have to deal with what it means. Where with revenge, it's like an abstraction. So it's like, yeah, I want revenge, and then you kill the person, and then it's like, do I feel better? Like, yeah. Like, and what do I do if I don't?
Well, I mean,
they never
do. Great.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, you had cited Hamlet earlier, and like, I guess in the abstract sense, Hamlet does like kill Claudius, but it costs him literally everything, including his own life. Spoilers for like a 500-year like play, but like nobody walks away from that one. Even Rosencrantz and Guildenstern don't come out okay by the end of it.
No, the society's made basically worse. Like Fortinbras, who they've chased away, then is able to show up and be like, all right, I guess I'm the ruler.
Yeah.
Like, the rest of you didn't know what to do, and like the kid from college came home and killed everybody and ruined everyone's life. So yeah. I'll take over.
That's like the worst like college break ever, right?
It's so amazing. Like on my college break, I saw my dead dad. I then pushed my girlfriend to commit suicide, and then I murdered everyone in the court.
Yeah, my mom's dead. Yeah, everybody's dead.
Yeah.
Now, you guys had been, you know, you were talking about collaborating and being able to bounce ideas off each other. You guys have been working together for well over a year now at this point. How would you say your collaborative spirit has and creative process has kind of grown, and how does it kind of inform each other?
I'll let Kate take that.
Well, no, I mean, I you know, this is the first thing I've gotten published, so I don't know how it normally goes, but it seems like a much more collaborative and like open process than it seems to be typically, which is really exciting. You know, if we have ideas to change things or move things around, like we'll just contact each other and be like, hey, what if this happened, or what if that happened, or what do you think about this, and is this going this direction? And it's just really fun and free, and kind of you know, it gets us both excited about the story. So it you know, it helps me get excited about the next visuals that I'm trying to come up with.
Yeah, I would say it's so much more organic to work this way. I mean, I think the way we've been working is the way that I've approached more of the image book, solely because I didn't know how you were supposed to make a comic book when I started doing this, and I'm still pretty new at it. It's so my preferred method because, you know, we both have, you know, everyone talks about stuff being creator-owned and what that means. I actually feel like the way that we're working, there's such a mutual ownership of the book. Like, we're constantly editing each other, but in, like, the great way where I don't think either of us ends up getting really that mad at the other person. You know, like, Kate will read something in the script, and as she's drawing, she'll write in, I'll get an email or you know, a direct message on Twitter, and it'll be like, hey, I'm reading through this, and this line makes absolutely no sense, or I don't understand what this means, or I don't think I want to draw that, could it be this? And, you know, it's a lot of just saying yes and agree. I feel like we both know the story we're trying to tell so well at this point that it's so much easier to go like, oh, no, half the time when she brings up stuff, I'm like, you're completely right. That's insane. And she's also really patient, because there's times where I'm like, hey, that script I sent you, everything in the middle, that actually should be the beginning of the book. Like, we need to take all of that, and that should be the first 5 pages, and then I'll send you some new stuff later today, and that'll be the next 5. But I think what it does for us is, like, we're just constantly challenging each other and pushing each other to make the book as good as it possibly can be, and really just as exciting as it can be for both of us. You know, I think anyone who's doing this at any successful rate kind of says the same thing. Is like, you're basically just trying to make the book that if you picked up at the store, you'd be like, holy shit, this is exactly what I wanted. And I think the way we've been working, it gets me closer to that than I think some other methods probably would.
Yeah. You know, was this the first San Diego Comic-Con that you had ever done, Sean?
Yes. Yes, it was.
I have to ask, how was that experience to your then San Diego Comic-Con Virgin Eyes, and how was the response? How has the response been to the book now? You know, a year into its debut.
I mean, Comic-Con is a lot. I mean, it's really overwhelming. I hadn't really ever been to conventions that much before. I mean, I went to New York Comic Con when Saints came out. I remember I had the same experience where I was just like, whoa, this is a lot. I mean, it was cool. It's still kind of weird to have people come up and ask to sign things. But it's also very cool. I mean, the response to the book has been really great. I mean, indie comics are, the business of indie comics are like such a weird slog, in the sense of, like, as everyone talks about forever, like, the direct market's a very strange method of selling things. Mm-hmm. And so, like, the way that things are high ordered and then drop off and then pick up and then drop off, it's kind of crazy. I mean, I think what I've been really impressed finding is tracking our book sales, and, like, how consistently the trade paperback of the first arc has sold at this point, and how it hasn't dropped off. Like, that's the thing that I was just talking to Caitlin about earlier today, where I was like, I was just looking at our Amazon sales. I'm like, we've sold consistently a high level number of books every week since it came out without drop off, which is fascinating. Like, we're both still really new in a lot of ways. So I'm like, I don't know what any of this means. Like, I know it's good, like, I know this is a good problem to have, but, like, we're still kind of, like, figuring out that side of it. And I love that people are reading it and finding it. Like, it's always fun to get tweets out of nowhere that are kind of like I think there was somebody who tweeted me the other day who was like, this is like the intersectional feminist revenge fantasy I always didn't know I wanted. I love it. I was just like, thanks.
Yeah.
I think I sent that to a store. I was like, here's your poll quote. I'm like, put next to it.
Just like a random.
It's been cool.
Yeah, a random shout out on Twitter, just like, Yarsky, yo, you the bomb in Coyotes, yo.
Yeah, it's really surreal. I'm like, there's people that are fans that don't know me. It's just very strange, yeah, but it's awesome.
Well, I feel like you guys have, like, the most, like, the most semi-charmed, like, entry point into comics. Like, Sean, it was like, what, a blind submission for Saints, and you're just like, and then Stevenson reaches out directly, and you're just like, oh, and it's like, yeah, that's not normally how it goes down.
Yeah, no, that's very true. And I took some other. That's my son. He says hi again.
Cool.
Sorry, he's just screaming.
Yeah. It's the Empire State. It has that effect on all of us, really.
No, you're totally right. It was a blind submission, and Eric's been amazingly supportive ever since. And Jen, I found Caitlin on Facebook. Yeah, it's a really weird.
Yeah,
like, it's just a weird origin story. It's just like, when you're doing it, it doesn't feel weird. I mean, I just didn't have any idea of how you found an artist. I also had no idea how you sent a comic book to somebody. So like when I sent it, I just sent it directly to Eric Stevenson, because at that time his email was still on the Image website.
Yeah.
So I was just like, he's the editor-in-chief. That sounds like the person that you should send the comic book to. I didn't realize until later. I think it was Steve Orlando at a Comic-Con just like looked at me and was just like, you're insane. Like, that's not what you're supposed to do. But yeah. I mean, we've been we've been incredibly lucky. I think as I also meet more people trying to get into it, the business, and people who've been in it for years, and I'm like, oh, this is a really absurd origin story to writing and getting to make comic books.
Caitlin, I think one of the most striking things about, and at the risk of getting my nose brown, but that's the show. One of the most striking things about the book visually is the painted covers. But you look at the interiors, and yeah, they're like you were saying. You and Sean kind of have a punk rock. I guess like everything that you do, Sean, has a punk. Because like Straight Up Saints is a punk rock comic, and The Few is basically like a punk rock version of The Road. But the how is it kind of? Does doing the covers kind of just let you work out different artistic muscles, and is that kind of enriching the interior work as well?
I don't know if it enriches the interior work. I think that it's definitely like, stretching different muscles, and I honestly just miss painting. I kind of my training was originally in fine art and everything, and so I started out with oil painting and charcoal drawing and things like that, and sculpting, and I just, I got into the digital world, and actually this whole next arc is going to be drawn with ink and everything too. So I'm trying to kind of like, stretch those traditional muscles again, and it just feels good to have something tactile, and the sense of accomplishment is kind of different than when you do it digitally.
Yeah. Plus, you can sell that original art online for a little extra chicka cheddar.
That's true. Yep.
Don't know why I shouted that. Also, so, without necessarily going into giving the game away, what can we expect? You had mentioned the theme of reconciliation, but what can we expect for the gang going into the second arc?
That's a good question. I think Caitlin has all of the scripts at this point or soon. I mean, definitely, the big thing for me has always been like watching Red grow. I mean, it's impossible to have a character who starts off as young as her and it not be kind of a Buildings Roman where you're just like, okay, how is she gonna transform and change? And in the first arc, I was really interested in the arguing, the different waves of feminism that were represented by, the Duchess and the Victorias, as well as, and then the confliction of that with the Abuelas. We're now like much more of a myth and the large scale of this like eternal fight between the wolves and the daughters of Gaia becomes a huge part of the storyline. And then as well with that is definitely like, can you forgive people do horrible things within your society? Are they excommunicated forever? Or if you're going to try and rebuild society with them, how do you do it? Like I had mentioned Rwanda before, and the thing that, when I was over there, I got really fascinated because the whole idea of people wearing pink jumpsuits comes from that. Because like you'll go to the market and you'll see like 6'6" guy wearing a full pink jumpsuit. And I remember asking people I was working with over there, like, oh, is that like a fashion statement? And they were just like, oh no, he killed somebody. And you're like, what? Like, and it's just kind of commonplace because that's. And I remember just being like, what do you mean? And they're like, oh, during the genocide, he killed somebody in our village. So when we had like the trial with our elders, that was the sentence he got. And you see a lot of people in these kind of outfits throughout like the country. And so I was just kind of fascinated. I remember asking them like, well, why didn't you just put people in jail? Or like, I'm surprised that they weren't like executed. And their response was, they were just like, the genocide, like this problem was so massively huge that if we put everyone involved in jail or killed all of them, we wouldn't have a country anymore. And it just kind of hit me where I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting when you get to a point of like, we're not talking about forgiveness simply in like a Christian ideal of like absolution and making people feel better or good, but just as a societal thing, like how does a society continue? And so I think like that's a huge question I'm really interested in this arc.
Right. So yeah, I guess we'll see that kind of unfold over the next 4 issues. Now, something we ask everybody that comes. I guess Sean, I've asked you this question 4 times now, and Caitlin, this is time number 2. That means, Sean, if you come on one more time, you get like A gift basket, which literally
Nice.
exists, by the way. Literally, there is a gift basket for people.
I gotta write a new book.
You got something at Aftershock or something, right? Or but the what are you guys currently geeking out over?
That's a good question. Caitlin, why don't you jump in that first?
Really?
Yeah.
I'll be honest. I'm working on Coyotes so much that I haven't had time to really get excited
That's
about
fair.
anything else. But I'm excited about. I don't know. Yeah.
Is there no music? No music on in the background, or you don't watch TV as you draw?
Not a podcast. So I listen to The Moth. I've been listening to a little bit of Adventure Zone. I've been listening to Mysterious Universe, and let's see what else. Those are the big ones. I listen to a lot of NPR podcasts. And I listen to music, but it's hard actually because most of the music I love is like singer-songwriter type stuff, and I can't really work to that because it just distracts me with all the awesome lyrics. So I'll listen to like minimal soundscape stuff, which I normally hate, but it's like a friend of mine has like a whole podcast, a whole playlist on Spotify, and I play that, and I can just zone out for hours. So
I'm curious, what singer-songwriter stuff? Because we're a musical bunch over here at the Geek Out Studios.
I really love Tom Waits. I love Leonard Cohen, Elliott Smith, Kate Bush, Amy Mann.
Have you listened to the new Courtney Barnett?
No.
I
don't even know who that is.
She is a Melbourne-based singer-songwriter. That's all I got. If you like the more stripped-down stuff, she's good. Also, if you want a blend of ambient music and singer-songwriter, listen to the band Japanese Breakfast.
Japanese Breakfast, okay.
It doesn't sound anything like you would think a band called Japanese Breakfast does, but that's the appeal. How about you, Sean?
I've been reading some old Arcs of Fables from Vertigo. I picked up a new copy, that number 1 of Seeds, from Burger Books at Dark Horse. I thought that was pretty great. I'm trying to think. Music-wise, I'm listening to a lot of older stuff. I've been listening to a lot more either aggressive or embarrassing stuff than Caitlin. I, for some reason, found myself listening to old, like, techno rave music all day today while I was writing. For whatever reason, I don't know if I needed an energy jolt of some kind, but I had a bunch of, like, superstar DJ Kiyoki playing on my Pandora, which is not something I'm super proud of. But
a lot of Oakenfold, yeah.
Yeah, it's been Oakenfold. I'll bring him up tomorrow. But yeah, I'm trying to think, and with a kid, like, I just haven't seen a movie, I think, in a decade, it feels like. He's only 2, but it feels like I've never seen a movie.
Well, I remember the last time.
Comic books.
Yeah, the last time you were on, you had just seen, like, Green Room with your wife or something like that, some Saulnier film.
Oh, yeah. I loved Green Room. Green Room was great. Yeah, I forced her to watch Good Time recently. I've been trying to force people to watch that. But I mean, I saw that a long time ago, but I loved that movie so much that I've been really pushing it.
Yeah.
But yeah, other than, Green Room was great.
Any interest in the new Halloween?
Oh, if I can get away, I'll go see it for sure. I also just love the idea of Danny McBride making it. I'm hoping he's in it and funny. I haven't been able to keep up with like what they're actually doing. I also just love that that David Gordon Green's like filmmaking career is insane. Like I just like how weird and strange that guy has been from like making. I remember seeing George Washington when that came out. He was like this, tonal indie darling, and then he was making stoner comedies with Seth Rogen, and now he's making horror movies. I'm just kind of like, this guy's amazing. I love that he just doesn't really like care about what's expected of him. Great.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was interesting because it was like McBride that was the one that was instrumental in being like, this Halloween ignores everything except for the original Halloween. Like Laurie Strode and Michael Myers are no longer related. It's just so that came straight from Mr. Eastbound and Down. So
no, I love that. I mean, I watched the original one growing up so much. I had an uncle who used to babysit me, and it was all just horror classics before bed for the most part.
Okay, well, let me tangent, and Caitlin, you're welcome to join in on this too. Something we ask everybody that does horror, and I suppose Coyotes kind of qualify. I always kind of lumped it in more with action, but I suppose there's definitely horrific elements. I mean, there's like people get ripped apart like ever since like issue 1. And all throughout that doesn't like taper off, but the there's no peaceful like.
I like that. Don't let the listeners think that the dismemberment tapers off.
Yeah,
it stays solid.
Yeah, there's no Aaron Sorkin issue of Coyotes yet.
On fun.
Yeah. But who's your favorite slasher?
My favorite slasher? It probably is Myers. Like I love the first Halloween a lot. I mean, you can't really count Leatherface as a slasher, right? Like I don't think Texas Chainsaw doesn't really fit in that. It's like in a weird hybrid place, I guess. Yeah. But yeah, I always liked Myers a lot more than I liked. Jason. I never really got into as much. I think I got just killed by the later films. Like there were so many bad films late that I don't know. It's kind of lost. It kind of ruined his interest for me.
Right. Caitlin, do you have a favorite horror film?
I don't know. I mean, I have a favorite horror series, but it's kind of horror comedy. Buffy. I was like a huge Buffy fan, and now I'm listening to this podcast called Buffering the Vampire Slayer. It's really awesome. They're going through every single episode, and it's pretty great. I mean, if you're told me, but
that's 7 seasons of television.
They're only on 4.
Oh wow. Well, again, the new arc of Coyotes starts on August 15th out in comic book stores everywhere with issue 5 and on Comixology. Sean, Caitlin, thanks again for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Always good talking to Sean and Caitlin. Always good talking to those two.
Yeah.
And now they're both in the Empire State, albeit different parts of upstate. But hey, that's cool. Anyway, and it's always good getting somebody else on our time zone. What'd you guys get into in the past week? Concerts, movies, anything?
I started watching the new Hulu show Castle Rock.
Oh yeah, both of you guys have seen the first episode, right?
I am actually all caught up. Well, I'm halfway through the most recent episode, which, as at time of recording, is episode 4. Just dropped today.
And then you've seen the pilot.
I saw the pilot. Yeah. Really good.
It's good stuff.
We've had Mark Bernardin writes for that show.
Oh,
we've had him on twice.
Friend of the show, Mark Bernardin.
I'd like to think so.
Yeah.
I like to think so.
And
even if he probably is just like, who the fuck?
Yeah.
and friend of Jake's heart, Jane Levy, is an actress on the show.
As is a Sarsgaard.
Yeah. And Sissy Spacek. There's tons of little Easter eggs for hardcore Stephen King fans. Like Jane Levy's character is Jackie Torrance, which is a feminine version of Jack Nicholson's character in The Shining, or Steven Weber if you're more made-for-TV inclined. Or just the main character of the book. But yeah, so it's good so far, though. I'm a casual Stephen King fan at best. I have seen more movies based on his books than I have read his books. But speaking of Sissy Spacek being in the show, I am currently reading Carrie. And by reading, I mean listening to the audiobook, which is narrated by Sissy Spacek.
Oh, that's cool.
Coal miner's daughter herself.
Yeah. With forward read by Stephen King himself.
Oh.
And he does not know how to pronounce telekinetic.
Oh. Well, he's a gazillionaire, so fuck us.
and also
I'll be sure to bring that up next time I talk to Steve.
He also is a writer, so we constantly run into people who like, I've seen that word written down, but I've never heard it. Who knows how to pronounce it?
No.
How does it pronounce in the Venom trailer? Symbiote?
Well, the new trailer they say symbiote.
Okay. They probably did like ADR.
Well, it's a different character, but yeah, they say symbiote.
Yeah.
I think in the first one, and then
I mean that makes more sense because it's biological. Unlike one of my old teachers who used to call it a biopic, instead of a biopic
Mm-hmm.
because it's a biographical picture.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember a while ago, Sam had his revelation with Halcyon. Was that?
Yeah, I used to call it Halicon all the time.
Which makes sense.
Yeah, I didn't know it was a soft C.
Yeah. Lincoln messed me up for a long time, and Colonel.
Oh yeah. Core.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Speaking of Stephen King, I watched The Dark Tower.
Oh.
Oh yeah.
I don't know what inspired me. Like we've all been like threatening each other that we were going to watch it.
Yeah, just like I've been threatening you all for years.
That you're gonna buy The Founder.
It's on sale.
Yeah.
It's on sale again.
It's like sale for like $5. And I've got a $3 credit, so I can get it for $2.
Or you can get something that you really want.
Like
I will
The
never
Founder.
understand that logic ever.
I hated this movie, but it's on sale.
You gave me a movie I hated.
That was funny.
That was free to you though, and well, I guess
the part.
Yeah. but you would be still spending $2 on The Founder.
$2 on a movie you hated.
You already spent the $15 to see it in the theaters.
with both of you.
Yeah. Which is why I don't want to buy it.
Dude, there are movies on sale that I love that I have no interest in buying. But anyway, I rented The Dark Tower, and I had never read any of the books. Had like a very, very, very basic idea of what the story was, like going into it.
So did the filmmakers.
Oh, well, what I had heard was like it's kind of like a continuation sequel deal, but like I know enough of the Gunslinger where I'm like, how's that possible? But
I think the idea was that it was going to be like with the Gunslinger and I guess the Man in Black or whatever, but it wasn't going to be so directly based on any particular book that anyone could jump into it.
Right. The idea is with the Dark Tower, it's cyclical. Roland Deschain always is going towards the Dark Tower. When he finally reaches it, everything starts over. But it's like if you had to play through a Zelda game, and every time you beat the Zelda game, you would restart it, but you would have one more item. It's like, oh, now I have a bow and arrow, and and he has like no concrete memory of what he just did. He just knows he has to get to the Dark Tower, and that he's got the horn right in the movie.
I don't remember
Because that's what
I honestly don't remember. He's got
what he
two
ends the
guns,
books with.
2 guns forged from Excalibur. That's the only thing that matters.
Which I'm sure he uses like a fucking hoss.
He does use like a fucking hoss because like the movie I think is like an hour and a half around there.
It's tight.
It's real and like.
And there was still plenty of stuff that they could have shaved off.
Yeah, it's like the first like hour is like kind of boring. Like it's not like it's shit. Like I don't think again it got like super low Rotten Tomato score, which doesn't really fucking matter. And it's just kind of boring. Whatever, you meet the kid Jake and he's going nuts, and it was nice hearing Idris Elba be like, "Hey Jake," I'm like, "What's up, man?"
Father.
Yeah, we're best friends now. But
Father, I will become a Jake.
Yeah. But Idris Elba was awesome. Like he, definitely was the best part of it. And like basically the last 30 minutes is him just shooting the fuck out of everything. Like everything. And there's some parts that are just so dumb looking, but it's awesome at the same time.
I like how he reloads the pistols in the trailer
when he's like just dropping the bullets in.
Yeah,
that part's cool. There's a
He's
part where
fast.
there's a part where he like slings it like up to catch it, which is like reminding me of like Equilibrium or something like that.
Doesn't he like roll the chamber across his like leg and reload it that way? Or
He
something?
might. Yeah, it's really quick. Like it's really fast. And there's that part in the trailer that they do where like Jake gets captured by some fucking beast idiot and
Matthew McConaughey.
No, and he kind of closes his eyes, listens to like the heartbeat slow mo, and then shoots him from like a half mile away or whatever the hell it is, which is still cool. You're like, that's fucking badass. Like you whisper to yourself when you're watching it, like that's fucking badass.
Just don't let anyone hear you
It
say
was like
it.
2 a.m. when I finished it. I was like, oh shit. But
Yeah, I think it was like after recording last week's episode because I get like these Facebook messages at like 1 or 2 in the morning.
fuck it.
Yeah.
What's funny? I texted Sam the minute before it kicks into just him shooting everybody. I was like, this movie's kind of boring as shit. Like I think I said like I don't know how I said it, like hilariously boring or like supremely boring, I think is what I said. It's just kind of nothing's going on, and then immediately Idris Elba like heard it, and he was like, "Oh yeah, Jake, watch this," and then he just starts shooting everybody. And then you're gonna hear the Gunslinger Creed a lot, which is cool because it's a cool little creed.
With great power comes great responsibility.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's it. And so I mean, it was fine.
Worth the rental.
Yeah.
But worth owning.
No, because again, it's like you rent it for a couple bucks
But what
and
if
never
it's-
watch it again.
But what
or
if
you,
it's only $5 on Vudu?
if it's only $5,
And you have a $3 credit.
Yeah.
If the rental, let's say the rental is $3.99,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
rent it.
Yeah.
Don't buy it
Okay.
because you're not going to watch it again.
Mm.
It's because people are like, well, if you do, then no, you're not. It's even if it's $9.99. Nope, rent it.
That's how much it is now.
Yeah, rent it because you never watch it again.
Stephen King apparently dug it.
That's cool. I mean, like I said, for the people
That's
involved,
fine.
that's
He
all you.
hated the original Shining movie.
Yeah, that's
so.
all you fucking need is and he had that great tweet about Castle Rock too, which must be blowing people's minds.
Oh well, I mean I'm pretty sure he was part of like creative with it. So
He created.
he is the creator of the Stephen King verse.
I did get there was a lot of Easter eggs in the Dark Tower to other things.
Yeah, because
which was really cool. Like
that's one of the first times that people were like really starting to connect the dots between his movies.
they have a literal like carnival thing that says Pennywise. They have I think they mentioned Shawshank. They have the Overlook Hotel or whatever, like in the background in someone's office, like a picture of it. They have like twins in there.
I just got the official press release.
Uh-huh.
Halloween is rated R.
Oh well, Joe.
Breaking news.
Stop the presses.
This prize of 0 fucking
Yeah.
people.
If you drop teeth, it's gonna be R.
Yeah, the MPAA is just like,
He just turns back, looks at him, and just shakes his head. He's like, "This is an R rating. I mean, you don't drop teeth in PG fucking 13." The tinkling of the teeth. Oh my god. That's good to know that it's R.
confirmed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, Dark Tower. If you're curious, rent it. Don't buy it. And I mean, unless you were like, unless you're like, I own every Stephen King adaptation, then go for it.
Then you probably already own it.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
because it's been out for a while.
Yeah, I have it right next to Christine and Maximum Overdrive. Yeah,
and the movie he does not remember making.
Yeah.
And what was the? Oh, he doesn't. What book was it? He doesn't remember writing. Was it Running Man? Yeah, he just woke up.
The Running Man.
Yeah, he just.
I mean, I've read most of that book, and I wish I didn't remember.
Well, I remember him saying something like he woke up like on a Sunday or a Monday after a weekend, and he had a finished manuscript, and he had a trash can full of bloody tissues because of the coke bender he was on. He's like, maybe one day Arnold Schwarzenegger will be in this.
That's why I think he attributes that one to Bachman.
Yeah,
yeah, because that's not originally credited to himself.
And it's definitely more of a sci-fi. I mean, you guys have seen the movie, even though the movie is loosely based on it at best. It's definitely more of a. I mean, it's an action book. It's not a horror book at all.
It's a Bachman joint.
Bump, 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 bump. Stephen King's pen name.
Yes.
Well,
that's cool.
Yeah,
that's cool, man. Dogs are cool.
Yeah, yeah. I've done a lot of traveling for work this past week, and I am exhausted.
Yeah, and you're about to do more.
Yeah.
So that's gonna be fucking bananas.
Yeah.
So yeah, that it, Jake. You just watch the Dark Tower.
That's it. That's all I did. I blacked out. And I woke
and then
up
you had
here.
a manuscript and a whole bunch of bloody tissues.
That's right.
What would that be?
And
what would your
Lone Wolf and Pub? I hope.
Yeah. Finally.
What would your pen names be?
John Bozick.
Who's that?
Yeah.
Oddly enough, I would go with the old porn name formula.
Oh,
your first pet in the street you grew up on.
Yeah,
it's a damn good name. It's Max Bridgeton.
Oh. I always heard it was.
I sound like I'm related to Max Caulfield.
I always heard middle name and street you were living on, because mine would be Frederick Stonehaven.
That's pretty good.
So I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
Mine would be Warren Stonington.
Yeah. Okay. It's not
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's
Yeah.
not, and it's not that far off.
Yeah, it's not.
What's that? That's cool, man. It's nice.
It's lovely.
Well, no one's gonna. I'm like bracing myself for you guys to ask.
Hey,
I
Sam.
mean, yeah. I mean,
What did you
just
get
do
into?
it. You just fucking say it.
Well, I'm glad you asked. The
Wait, hold on. Let me do it like you. Well, Sam, what did you get into this week?
I'll tell you. I saw the Arctic Monkeys.
Oh,
Yeah,
I've heard of them.
They are good. This is actually the second time I've seen that band. I saw them in what the hell? I saw them in 2014 at Firefly when they were closing out the tour cycle for their album AM, which is like their best fucking album. And then I saw them at the end. That was a game day decision because I like the Arctic Monkeys. They put on a hell of a show, but I'm not the big like their latest album, Tranquility Base Hotel and Casino, is a bit of a departure. It's like the other one's like a like Dr. Dre beat-esque like Western rock record, which makes sense when you hear certain tracks. What I just like if you listen to Arabella or Why You Only Call Me When You're High, you're like, oh, that sounds like a fucking Dr. Dre rhythm.
But what did Dr. Dre say about it?
Nothing, you idiots. Dr. Dre is dead. He's locked in my basement. Hey, it's an Eminem reference. Please don't send the FBI to my house. The
He's not really there.
yeah, he's ripped. Have you seen how jacked Dr. Dre is?
Yeah, he's a doctor of working out.
Their latest album is like a lounge record. It's like a 70s concept like lounge record. Like he's like it's like Station to Station era Bowie. And but they made those tracks work. I saw them at the Anthem. I bought the tickets like the morning of. I basically woke up on Sunday and I was like, fuck it, I'm going to go see the Arctic Monkeys today.
That's almost like how I saw NXT take over Brooklyn last year. The wrestling, for those of you listening that don't know, NXT is the World Wrestling Entertainment's minor league. And much like the pay-per-views that wrestling has, NXT every once in a while has a big show like that too. And on a whim, like the day before, I think I bought tickets or a ticket for the show and called up one of my friends that lives not too far away from the Barclays Center and was like, hey, can I sleep on your couch? Cool, I'm coming. I'm already on the way.
Yeah, I'm in Delaware right now.
I know I should have called before I got on the road, maybe before I bought the ticket, but it was only $20.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting in the nosebleeds, and dear God, they were nosebleeds.
Oh, Barclay's huge, right?
Yeah, very tall.
Yeah, Anthem,
I love the Anthem.
Anthem's great.
I saw NXT perform there, too.
This is the second show I've seen at the Anthem. The first one was Portugal the Man back in February.
And I love its location. I had never been to the Wharf before I went to the Anthem, but it's really nice.
They have a nice gelato shop. I remember on St. Patrick's Day, before I bought Preacher Season 1, but after I was smashed, or in the process of being smashed, I went to the Wharf, got a gelato and got drinks, and then I went back and was like, Preacher's on sale. I'll get this. And I've still only seen the first episode. How dare you? I like the show. I just have
you like the first episode. You can't say show yet. You can't say show yet, you fucker. You fucker. No, do it, man.
Say show.
Yeah. But no, I'll jump on it. I will. I promise.
Jump on it.
But yeah, thanks again to Sean and Caitlin for coming on. It's always good having them. And again, Coyotes is back for its second volume, starting with issue number 5 on August 15th, out in comic book stores everywhere on Comixology. This has been another installment of Catching Up. I'm Sam.
I'm Chris.
I'm Frederick Stonehaven. Thank you very much.
Good night, Eric Bana.
This has been another Geek Out production. If you enjoyed what you heard, hey, we've got a special episode every Friday. Of course, there's the usual Catching Up show every Wednesday. And you get book club episodes just about every Tuesday these days. Thanks for listening.